Hey folks, my name's Kevin and it's time for a little bit more knife nerdery. Today I'm going to be making one of those 5 knives that make me happy videos. If you've been seeing these go up on other people's channels in real time, you already know exactly what I'm talking about. But in case you're watching this from the future and don't have that context, basically Pete from Cedric and Ada Outdoors started a tag video where you talk about some topic and then tag folks that you want to hear talk about that same topic. And the topic he chose was 5 knives that make you happy. So these aren't your favorite knives. They aren't the best knives you own. They aren't the knives you carry the most often. These are 5 knives that, for whatever reason, just instill some kind of joy in you when you see them, when you use them, when you hold them, or whatever. And that can be for all sorts of different reasons. And that's the kind of thing that a lot of non-knife people don't even really realize. But knives are absolutely the kind of physical objects that can just give you this really intrinsic sense of glee when you hold them. Also, like, depending on who you got them from, when you got them, if you had them on you at a specific time, they can all make you happy for sentimental reasons. But also some of them are just really fun. So some knives are really silly and playful in a way that just makes you feel excited every time you hold them. I got tagged in this video, to make this video, by Jake from Bearded Gear. If somehow you're watching this channel and don't know who he is, I mean, statistically the odds of that are very low, but go sub him. He's one of my absolute favorite reviewers. He's just a really cool guy. But what I love about his videos is that you can tell he's the type of person that has really thought through what he's saying and is also just being really honest with you. Like, there's an earnestness which comes through. And if I'm going to be looking for someone's opinion on something, like, obvious earnestness is a super, super important quality there. He and I don't have exactly the same taste in aesthetics. Like, there's a fair good amount of overlap in the Venn diagram, but it's not the same. But when it comes to, like, the things that make a knife good, functional, and also make a knife fun, I see eye to eye with him on almost everything. So whenever I see he has a new video out, I almost always know it's going to be something that I want to see. I'm also filming this way because he always does his shots as these talking head face shot videos. All of his videos are like that. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like here. I've done some content like that before, but this is my first time filming that in this new room. I don't really know what all is going to be visible behind. And I've never tried to do that thing where you like hold your hand behind the knife to make it focus. Let's give it a shot. I went through my knife chest and picked out 5 knives that make me happy. The first one is this, the Brad Southard Mini Tolk. Now, I chose this for 2 main reasons. The first is that this is a mechanical marvel. This is a absolutely stunning piece of just physical machinery. This is an amazing knife. This is a knife that Brad Southard made entirely in-house. 100% of this was made by him. Sorry about that. And it is just spectacular. If you look at like the details on this micro milling here on the clip and the way that these lines line up, or like the triple ano coloring on the backspacer, just the way that this jimping is so perfectly locks you in, and that action. This is a stunning piece, and it has such good flipping action, and it actually has my favorite closing action on a knife, which is going to confuse a lot of people because look at how not fall shut it is. I have knives that are fall shut, and those are fantastic too. But this is the kind of knife where you can put it anywhere you want, and it's not going to fall. But the moment you try and close it at all, it just goes like effortlessly home. It almost feels assisted in the closing in this kind of wild way, like it has a bias towards closing. Any minute amount of putting it just goes so well. And so as a result, this is one of those knives that it's just more usable. You can take your thumb out of the way. You don't have to worry about it guillotining you off. The real reason why I picked this, though, and why it's starting off this video is because this is a jumping in knife for me. This was a gateway knife into taking this knife hobby more seriously, or I guess letting myself take this knife more seriously, this hobby more seriously. This is a very expensive custom knife. Now, it's not a custom made for me. I got this on secondary, but this is a ground knife for a lot of people, and this is by far the most money I had spent on a knife up to that point, by a lot. And so this was the first time that I let myself really nerd out and pick something and buy for myself something that was so incredibly well made and special. And I've never been to one of those big knife shows where you get to handle everything. And so this was also the first time that I ever got to hold something and see something this incredibly well made up close and in person. And so every time I use this, it just reminds me of how excited I was and blown away I was at just how good this is. And I still feel that way. It's absolutely amazing. And what that brings us to is the next knife. This is the Holt Haptic. And this is just kind of the epitome of everything that excites me about a knife. I'm a type of knife enthusiast that is into these things because of their mechanical nature, because of their gadgetry, because of their craftsmanship, because of their design, because of the way they feel and sound. And this just does all of those things perfectly. It's one of those things where like the precision and clean lines of this milling, the way that these line up again, the way that these line up, the way that this is so perfectly engineered that this exactly matches back there and it's exactly 1-to-1 hand-to-roll ratio. The action on this, that sound, and just the way it falls. This is the kind of knife that gets me excited about knives from an engineering perspective. This knife is amazing. And for knives that I'm going to carry and use all the time, I much prefer a user finish. This knife does make it into my pocket occasionally, but it's honestly a little bit too pretty for me, but it gives me a different kind of joy then, because the anode job on here is spectacular. This is one of those secret blurples. And so as a result, it looks vivid blue front on and then gets these bright purple colors when you get in an angle. And even that fact, like the like chemistry, molecular physics, light physics going on there, the fact that light can refract off of a surface in a way that changes color as it goes, that is so exciting. And so this knife this is the kind of knife that gets me excited about knives. What's up next is the TRM Shadow. Now, this is not my favorite TRM knife. That's probably the Neutron. This is also not my most used TRM knife. That's probably also the Neutron. That fits my hand perfectly, and I love that you can swap the scales and just customize it to make it your own. But I picked this one for 3 main reasons. The first is that it is a just spectacularly slicey, super functional, wonderful in your hand knife. Like, I know every time I pick it up that I'm going to love using it. It's also really fun to play with. The second reason I picked it is because it just reminds me of TRM, and I think they've got to be my favorite knife company. Like, the company itself, I love their knives, but like the folks who run the company and all of the folks that are in their Facebook group, the TRM Facebook group is one of the best and most supportive and positive online communities I've ever seen, period, let alone in the knife world. And so I've just had such great experiences there that I like being reminded of that. But the big reason why I chose this knife above any other TRM is because it's basically the reason why I'm here today making content like this. So this knife is still very hard to get, extremely hard to get, but I lucked into getting one of the very first micro drops. They call them sprinkles. And so by kind of coincidence of timing, I happened to be one of the first like 5 to 10 people on the planet to have one of these. And as a result, there's a whole bunch of people that wanted to know what this was like and asked a bunch of questions about it. And I was one of the very few people on the planet that was in a position to be able to answer those questions. So I started answering every question that people were asking on the Facebook group. I started taking a bunch of pictures of this, close-up detailed pictures, and I started posting some video stuff because some stuff's just easier to explain with video. Now, I'm a huge nerd of a bunch of different varieties, and I love jigsaw puzzles, and so I had actually just bought this specific camera rig that holds my cell phone because I wanted to do top-down, like, time-lapse puzzle assembly videos. And I realized that I could use that same rig to record some video content for this because it'd be easier if I had 2 hands and I had both my hands free. And so I posted a video all about the small details of this knife, and I posted it to the Facebook group, and I got just such incredibly positive, warm, supportive feedback from that. People were so excited and appreciative of me doing that. And meanwhile, I was just getting really excited to get to nerd out with people about something that they were interested in as well. And a bunch of people ended up messaging me, including Marianne Halpern herself, saying that I should create a YouTube channel and put that stuff up there. And so this knife is what spurred me actually making knife content myself and sharing with others. And that aspect of it, this channel, how much I've engaged with the community, and just getting to nerd out about things with other fellow nerds has been such a big part of what's kept me happy during this pandemic time. And so every time I see this knife, it just reminds me of that, like this is what's going on right now and how happy that makes me. And so this makes me happy. You'll also see that I've just been playing with it nonstop because it's such a fun fidget knife. And that brings us to my next knife. This is my chopped mini smock. This is a Spyderco smock that has been chopped in this dimension and this dimension, thinned out here, blade choil expanded, and turned into a more like clean, traditional Wharncliffe shape. I chose this for 3 big reasons. The first is that this is just by far the single most fun fidgety knife of any knife I've ever seen, let alone own. This is just such a fun knife. It's also an incredibly good slicer. This is a super useful knife. And so whenever I have this on me or pick this up, I know I'm going to have fun with it. The second thing is that there's just kind of a serendipitous nature of how I got this. I didn't know that people did this. I didn't know that people made chopped smocks, but I saw the Spyderco smock and saw how big it was and thought, you know, I'd really love if there was like a smaller mini version of that. So I actually started hunting down modders that would be able to do this kind of mod. And I learned that some people out there are already doing exactly what I wanted, but B, I had already spec'd out kind of what I wanted to do and like what scales I wanted. I knew I wanted blue TerraTough scales. I wanted to try those. I knew I wanted an MSG gear clip. And I knew that because some of the modders make it into more sheepsfoot blades, and I love sheepsfoots, but I knew I wanted this one to be jabby because I want to be able to poke into stuff. And so by total coincidence, like exactly what I had been envisioning got posted to the secondary market like literally 2 or 3 minutes before I went searching for it. And so I happened to find exactly what I've been envisioning. Was the moment I went hunting for it. It was one of those just like, oh my God moments. The third reason why this just brings me joy is because of the nature of what this knife is and the backstory about Kevin Smock himself and how he got into this. And it's something I was going to talk about in my upcoming Smock Teardown Deep Dive video, and I still will, but I might as well talk about it here. So this is the Spyderco Smock. It started as a Spyderco smock and it got chopped down. The Spyderco smock is a collaboration between Spyderco and custom knife maker Kevin Smock. But Kevin Smock got into being a custom knife maker, and he honed his skills at knife metalworking by originally chopping a different Spyderco collaboration with a custom knife maker. There's a knife that I don't own, but I'll pop in a picture, called the Spyderco Southard. Again, last name of the maker, named after Brad Southard. And it's not this knife, but it looks a lot like this because Brad Southard has just a kind of particular style. And Kevin Smock, it's a pretty long knife. And Kevin Smock got into the hobby and then into the craft by taking the Brad Southard and chopping it down to make a mini Southard. And so he got started by chopping a Spyderco collaboration with a custom knife maker, and now that he is a custom knife maker and has a Spyderco collaboration, other folks are chopping his down. And I love that. I love the kind of like perfect cyclical nature of that, but I also really hope that that means that this is a jumping off point for those people. This particular one was chopped by Blade Chops on Instagram. And I have no idea if that guy has any aspiration to make a custom knife himself, but boy does he have the talent. The work he did on this is spectacular. And so I would love to see if that kind of circular pattern keeps going and the folks that are doing chops of the smock end up making their own knives and end up making a collaboration with Spyderco that someone else can chop down the line. Okay, my last knife that makes me happy is by far the biggest and baddest of them all. Are you ready for this? Because it's huge. It's huge. I love this thing so much. Oh my God, this is so dumb. I love it so much. This is the Ferrum Forge Micro Fortis, and this is a tiny 1.5 inch blade keychain version of their full-size knife, the Fortis. And I just adore that this exists in the world on so many levels. I love so much that the people as talented as the Ferrum Forge brothers also have a silly enough sense of humor to make this. Like, that's amazing. But I love even more that they poured so much effort into making this real. And that I'm assuming this was done by WE, because like WE, Civivi are the folks that fab all of their knives. And I love that they put so much effort into making this so real and usable. This is a real knife. This is a titanium frame lock knife with Nitro V blade steel, a mirror polish edge, a ceramic detent ball, the tiniest ever caged ceramic ball bearings in there, and the action on this. How the hell did they make something this small snap out so good? It's physically impossible to open this without at least smiling and more just like bursting into laughter. It's so good, but it's also usable. Like, if you put this in your fingers like this and put your thumb on the back, this is actually a really secure grip, and the lockup on this is fantastic, and there's zero play. This is sturdy, and so you can absolutely push through cardboard. It's not a lot of blade, but it's a usable blade, and you can also kind of hold it like this in a pinch grip, and it actually works really, really well for draw cuts. And so one of the things that I love most in life is something that I heard it described, I love this phrase, is artisanal high effort nonsense. And that's when someone puts a lot of handmade effort into something just objectively silly and just kind of for fun. And it's when someone puts in way too much effort for something that like a surface value doesn't deserve to have that much effort in. And I love that. I love when people are just willing to pour themselves into something silly. And the end result is just so good. But I actually picked this for another reason too, because what this is, the way I got this, is a reminder of just good people in the industry and just spectacular customer service. Because when I went to go buy this knife, this was, you can't put your finger on that lock bar. This was completely sold out. Well, no, there was exactly one left in the copper finish, because they had a couple different colorways. But I wanted this titanium, raw titanium version. And I know you can strip anno, but anyway, I messaged them. I emailed Ferrum Forge and asked if they were ever going to do a restock on this. And they told me that probably not, but they also said that they checked, and in their like physical in-person store, because if you go and visit their like KnifeWorks area, they've got a little tiny gift shop place, and they said in their physical store they had not just exactly one left, but they had exactly the kind I wanted too. And their like billing system doesn't let them just send me an invoice, and so the only way that they could actually sell this to me and go through their whole system, get shipping and everything figured out, was to load this into their website. And they actually worked with me, coordinated with me, so that they would put it up on their website at the exact time that I was ready to be the one to get it, and so that it would nearly effectively guarantee that I was the one to get it. And I wasn't expecting like any kind of real response when I emailed them, let alone for them to go have like multiple emails back and forth and time things with me like that. That was really going above and beyond. And so every time I touch this, not only does it make me laugh, but it's just a reminder of when companies have fantastic customer service. Okay, these are all of my knives. Now I'm supposed to tag folks, and I went through every single channel that I sub, and I think almost all of them have already done this, or I've seen them get tagged by someone else. There's only two that I found that I don't think have done this yet. The first is Corey over at Casual ADC. He's another guy that I actually met in the TRM Facebook group. Really awesome, really friendly, super helpful, really nice guy. But he also has his own channel, and I think he runs with a friend of his. I love his videos. Definitely go sub him. I'd love to see what he picks. And the other person that I saw that I subbed that I didn't see do this is Fabs over at Fablades, or I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. I don't know this guy at all, but I love him. I think he's from Vancouver, Canada. I love his videos for three main reasons. One, I just love his accent. It's great. I love the way he talks. Two, he's got spectacular knives. Like, he's got some crazy stuff, and I don't know if all of this is like, I don't know how much of it is stuff that he owns versus stuff that he gets in, but either way, he has his hands on wild things. I hope I get to touch someday, kind of stuff. And the last reason though is that like why I really love his videos is because he's the type of person that talks about the tactile and auditory feeling of knives in every single one of his reviews. And since that's the kind of stuff that really I like to nerd out about too, I got really excited when I found another channel that was going to tell me about what a knife sounds like every single time. And so if you want to know, for example, like what the click feels like or what the tone of like 3 different Shiros is, for example, go find his stuff. I absolutely love it. Okay, I don't know how this turned out. I think I'm talking fast, but I'm trying to make this not too incredibly long. And I have no idea if any of this is even in focus, but this has been fun. I hope to hear from those 2 guys. If you watch this and you want to post down below what your 5 are, that'd be amazing. I'd love to read it. And again, knives that make you happy. Okay, I'll see you next time. Thanks.